Okay, today we're doing, Siman Kuf Pei Sefalef, about Chazusah. And previously we've spoken about 4 different times that an Isser is not bottle. 2 of them because it's very choshev, a berry or a chaticha v'liskabit, that's 2 things. Another one because it has a big role in the food, a davar maimed. And another one was special, davar sheish matir. All 4 of those things that can't be bottle, each in their own rules, each one of them comes from a Gemara that says that thing can't be bottle. Okay, so there's all kinds of pratim and details, but each one of them is a Gemara that says that thing can't be bottle. Today we're going to talk about Chazusah, which means these things that give color or change the appearance of something can't be bottle, and there's no Gemara. It doesn't come from a Gemara. Well, there's a possible Gemara, but as we're going to see, some people think it's not even true because there's no Gemara that says it straight out that it can't be bottle. Okay, so that's already something different about this thing called Chazusah. So the first Gemara is the Gemara Baba Kama, which seems to be the most relevant to what we're talking about, and talks about it's Baba Kama. Okay, so it's about stealing, and talks about a Ganav stole a piece of cloth and dye from somebody, and then he dyed the cloth. He took that dye and he dyed the piece of cloth, and he gave back the cloth now to the person. So the Gemara says, should we say Chazusah Milsa? The dye that he put into the cloth is here. You could see it, so it makes a difference. And therefore, he's returned the cloth and the dye. So he gave back what he was supposed to. Or should we say Chazusah Lav Milsa? The dye doesn't count. So all he's given back is a piece of cloth. He still owes the guy dye. He stole from him dye. He didn't give it back to him. Okay, so the Gemara has a shaila. Chazusah Milsa, Chazusah Lav Milsa. Well, in this Ganev, that's the Gemara's shaila. So the Gemara says, have a riot. Because this dinim, the Gemara brings 2 questions, 2 rayas to it, one from Earl and one from Shvius, that each one of those things, if you dye a piece of cloth or something like that with Earl or Shvius, the item becomes aser. It either has a din of Earl or Shvius to it. So that's a raya that Chazusah is milsa, because you see that for those things it makes a difference, and it's considered makes the thing aser because of that. The Gemara says no. Those dinim are special psukim for Orla or for Shvius. The psukim that are for them, maybe that's pasuk is dafka for Orla and dafka for Shvius, but doesn't apply to other things else. The Gemara leaves the shaila unanswered. Okay, so the Gemara leaves the shaila as a shaila: is Chazusah milsa or Chazusah lav milsa? Now there's another part of the Gemara I'm going to talk to you about in a few minutes. Okay, but for now, this part of the Gemara asks a shaila: should Chazusah milsa, Chazusah lav milsa? Based on, in this case, of a Ganav, and the Gemara says it's not Parshat the Shai. Tries from Orla, and the Gemara says in the end it says no raya, and we don't know whether Chazusah milsa and not milsa. So the Pri Chodesh says, well, a Sveika the Dina. We have no idea whether the din is Chazusah milsa or Chazusah lav milsa. He says so. Therefore, by the Raises you should be machmer, and the Rabbanan you should be mekel. Okay, that's a normal thing to say when you have a shaila of a suffix, and you're not sure if it's also the Raises or the Rabbanan. It's mutter aser. So he says la'inyan bitul visurim. What we care about? We're not talking about a ganav. The bitul visurim. He says this: if it's a deraisa, it's not batal, and if it's a rabbanon, you can be mekel. So, for example, let's say a person had took a candy, made candy with carmine. Okay, carmine comes from a bug. It's also a deraisa, and carmine makes things be colored red, orange, or purple. Okay, so you made this candy with carmine, and carmine color to it. So the amount that you put in is tiny. It's always batal b'shishim. It's in tiny amounts. But the Pri Chodesh says this: since it's an issa deraisa, since the thing that you put in is an issa deraisa, so Chazusah milsa, and the fact that it changes the color of the food, which it does, since it changes the color of the food, therefore it would not be batal, and the food would be treif.
Is he necessarily saying that Chazusah is not batal min HaTorah?
So it's a really good question. It's a really good question. The Pri Megadim says it is. The Pri Megadim says that's what the Pri Chodesh holds, and he says the reason why we not people with the Raisa would be because we'd say it's as if you could see it. It's like now Taruvas. Pri Megadim says the reason why the Pri Megadim says I wasn't going to say this part. The reason why the reason why the Pri Megadim says that is because he says it doesn't make any sense. The general rule is that anything that needs more than shishim to be batal, and it can't be batal b'shishim is automatically drabanan. So he says, so what's the Pri Chodesh saying? We should be machmer by the Raisa. It's always a drabanan. It's automatically drabanan. So he says Alamai is because the Pri Chodesh holds that Chazusah milsa is because it's not considered Taruvas, and others the Pri Megadim wants the others would disagree with that. He makes a whole to do out of it, but he wants it.
That this thing is not Fushim Gemara possibly
is also with the Raisa, right? Go figure, right? Such a strange thing. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think of it like that. I didn't think of it that way. But right, but he wants to say the Pri Chodesh can only say this because he thinks that it's a Raisa. Okay, maybe there are other ways to understand, But that you're right.
You have this question like if you're saying b'miyachav b'deraisa, so then it won't only be bottom drabanan is the way to explain why. I mean,
right, so you could say maybe it's like a nisgalgal kind of a thing. If it started off as an issa deraisa, the karma itself is also deraisa. Now it affects the shayla of a case where it's only negated to the one. Maybe the difference. Not clear. That's not the Prima. I'm telling you, the Prima doesn't say it. The Prima says no. It's because he holds that it's also deraisa. Because the Prima wants to say others disagree with that prat. That it just midrabanan like other things like the davar amayim is not part. Okay, now let me give you a case of the rabbanan, and then I'll come back to a deraisa for a second. What happens if instead of coloring the candy with carmine, you color it with something called eno? Okay, it has a long name. I can't pronounce it. Enocianina. I don't know how you pronounce it. Everybody calls it eno. It's a color that comes from grapes. Okay, so if you colored it with that would make a purple color. You color it with eno. So then, since eno is only asam d'rabbanan, see, it's only the issa that has to it is stam yain, so that's issa drabanan. So then the Pri Chadusha would say it can be batal. We'd say Chazusah lav milsa, and I mean you wouldn't be allowed to do it lechatchila. Bitul is lechatchila. But if it was put into a food, and the food was colored with eno, the Pri Chadusha would say it's mutter b'diavad because it's a case of drabanan. Okay, when I was trying to think of cases of deraisis and drabanan, so here I gave you these two cases of eno and carmine. Then I had another one that I thought which was a mistake, and that was. There's something called black squid ink, okay, and it's used to color pasta. Go figure. There's such a thing you can buy black pasta. You never saw it because it's not kosher. The squids are not kosher. So I was thinking that would be another example of an issa deraisa, which is give for Chazusah, and it wouldn't be batal according to Chadash. But then when I looked into it more, I never ate black squid ink, but when I looked into it more, it seems that people put it in for tam also. Okay, it seems that the black squid ink gives.
Seen it?
I have seen such a theory.
Except for cooked pasta.
Okay. Anyhow, so in that case it won't be batal because it's avidal time also. So I missed that case. Anyhow, okay. So let's go on. So that's what the Pri Chadash says, that it depends if it's a deraisa or drabanan. Fine. The Minchas Yaakov says no shaychus. He says that Gemara Baba Kama belongs in Baba Kama. He says because all the cases that are there, which was a case of the Ganev and the Orla and the Shvius, we're all talking about fabric or cloth or things like that. Where for those things, color is very important. That's a big part of what it is. Tam means zero. Doesn't make a difference what your shirt tastes like, but the color is very important. He says so for things that depend on color, that's for cloth, that makes a difference. He says for food, the ikka thing is the tam. He says so the only thing that counts is whether it's nice and tam. There were some other things I told you that can't be bottom. Chazusah is completely meaningless when it comes to isaveheta as far as food is concerned, and therefore the Minchas Yaakov says Chazusah is for sure lav milsahi when it comes to food. Okay, when it comes to isaveheta in your food, he says all the shaylas in the Gemara there was about clothing and cloth and fabric and things like that, where it makes a difference what color it is for food. I mean, of course, it makes a difference what color food is, but that's not the ikr thing. The main thing is the taste, and Chazusah is completely la milsa, even if it's issa deraisa. Even if you're putting carmine, it wouldn't make a difference. Chazusah is la milsa; it makes no difference no matter what. Okay, now there's another Gemara. Another Gemara that is a raya l'chara to the Minchas Yaakov. And that is this is a Gemara in Tzvachim. Okay, the Gemara is like this: Amarava, Amar Rabbanan b'Taima. This is going to sound very familiar. Amar Rabbanan b'Taima, Amar Rabbanan b'Ruba, or Amar Rabbanan b'Chazusah. Okay, the Chacham say there are three levels of Bitul. Some things are batal when they're not nice and tam. Some things are batal when they're batal paroy, when there's more, and some things are batal when they are not batal if they give color. It depends on whether they give color or they don't give color. Okay, so the Gemara says, what is what is Amar Rabbanan b'Taima and Amar Rabbanan b'Ruba? Those are both cases of Issa v'Heter. Whatever the cases are. Of Issa v'Heter being batal, like what we're used to, sometimes it's b'tam, and sometimes it depends on Rav. And Rashi says, okay, and what's the case of Chazusah? So Rashi says the case of Chazusah is some din, but no, some case in mikvahs. Rashi says it's a case in mikvahs that depends if it changes, if something fell into a mikvah, it changes the color, it doesn't change the color. That's what Chazusah makes a difference for. So why did Rashi go to another case? What was wrong with the Gemara? Just said b'shishim. Sometimes it depends on tam. Sometimes it depends on roiv. And Chazusah, we think of Chazusah in Issa v'Heterosis, in Pasuk. I'm saying these kind of isurim. So why did Rashi say that the case of Chazusah is also for food cases? Why did he go to mikvahs? What was wrong with the first two cases that we had said? So Elamai, that sounds like because le'inyan. For our kind of isurim, like Minchas Yaakov says, it makes no difference whether it changes the color. It could either depend on tam or it could be bata b'roiv, different things, but Chazusah plays no role at all. That's mashma like that from that Gemara, the way Rashi learns it. Okay, the Pri Chadash says, nah, it's not a raya. He doesn't think it's a raya. He says the Gemara, Rashi knew that in Baba Kama it's a suffix whether Chazusah milsa or not. So he didn't want to get into that argument. He didn't want to get involved in that to say this Gemara is being pushed at that child. So he gave you some other case, a safer case.
So the mashma was Amr Rabbanon that you'll find it someplace. Not Amr Rabbanon.
I mean Amr Rabbanon as if it's a known piece of information. Everybody knows that, you know.
No, everybody, but it's
out there.
Literature. It's a mission. It's a
okay. That's a fair question. Okay, I don't know how to answer that. Okay. Anyhow, so. Now let's go back to the Gemara Baba Kama for a second. Okay, I told you the Gemara in Baba Kama leaves the Shaila unanswered, which is it's true. The Gemara doesn't it's not part. Chazusah Milsa tries to bring a raya, and the raya from Orla and Shvius, and has said no, you can't bring a raya. Okay, well the only problem is the very next Gemara says, Rava says, I have a kasha. You told me this din of Orla says that Chazusah Milsa. Right, that if you use Orla to dye clothing, if Chazusah Milsa, Frek Rava, wait a second, there's another din about if you put blood that's tamei, and it gets onto something, then there's a raya from there, the Chazusah Lab Milsa. Here's a kasha. How can you say Chazusah Milsa by Orla? How come in this din of Tuma we say Chazusah Lab Milsa? And the Gemara says well, it's Tuma Drabanan, and therefore it's the Tuma Drabanan, so we say Chazusah Milsa. So what's going on here? Why is Ravi asking kasha? Rabbi, the Gemara a second ago said that the reason why Chazusah Milsa by Orla is because it's Xeris HaKosav. Okay, the Gemara said it's a special din for Orla and for Shvius. So why is Rabbi now? Remember, it's the next line of the Gemara. Why is Rabbi asking kasha? What about Tumah? Why is Tumah different? Because I just told you, because Orla is special. It's like such a strange flow of the Gemara. The Gemara says I don't know, and Orla is special, and they say, but what about why Orla is different than Tumah? Obviously, why Orla is different than Tumah? Because you just said a second ago that Orla is special. Okay. So that shaila that Rav asks is the Chuvas Aran says is a raya. Not the words I'm about to say. It's a raya to what the Shach and others say that Chazusah is never batel even by Yisur Rabbanan. And what's going on here in the Gemara is the Gemara was mesupek by the Chazusah Milsa, Chazusah La Milsa. The Gemara said there's no raya from Orla. Rava, who asked this kasha, is saying no. Chazusah is for sure Milsa. What you answered from Orla is not an answer. It's not true. It's not special for Orla. Really, Chazusah is Milsa, and of course it's not batel. Memela have a kasha from this din of Tumah. So what's going on here between the first part of the Gemara and the second part of the Gemara is the Gemara changed its mind. The Gemara was not sure about it, and all of a sudden when Rava comes along, Rava is saying, I know that Chazusah is Milsa, and therefore I have this question. What about this din of Tumah? Okay, if you remember, I mentioned the name Rava beforehand. Rava was the one who said in Zvachim, Amar Banim Chazusah. So it makes the kasha even stranger over there. How come, according to this pshat, how come Rava did? If Rava, it's the same Rava, why didn't we say over there Chazusah means Chazusah is Milsa? Okay, but this is the Ran, the Chuvas Ran says that's pshat, and this is a right. This Gemara, this second half of that Gemara in Baba Kama is a riot to the way the Shach and many others learn that Chazusah is Milsa. It can never be batel, even by Drabanan. It makes no difference. The way the Gemara is now being chayzer from the first piece. The second Gemara is a chazara from the first Gemara, and it's partial to the Gemara that Chazusah is Milsa. Okay, and okay. The Pri Chadash has a way to answer this kasha, but that's a right to that side. Okay, so according to the way the Shach said, according to this Shach, well, I'm calling the Shach, but it's also the Terschata says it. Minchas Kohen says it. According to this, the Chazusah would be Milsa even by Drabanan, even by the case of the Ino being mixed into the food, it would be also like that. Okay, so I told you so far 3 different shitas. Okay, one is that Chazusah is never batel. I just showed this Shach. Chazusah is always batel. That was Minchas Yaakov, the other extreme. And then in the middle was a Pri Chadash who said by Deraisis it's not batel, and by Drabanan it is batel. I told you 3 shitas. You should know there's 2 other shitas.
Or stated as Chazusah is valid not batel, Chazusah is valid batel, also suffix.
Right, correct. There's 3 different ways of saying correct. But there's 2 other shitas. Go figure. There's 2 more shitas. Okay, and one shita says is that this is the way the Gra learns. Says Chazusah is lav milsa only by things that are isuri hana. And when the Gemara said that Orla is special, it didn't mean just Orla is special. It means isuri hana is special. Okay, and I guess the understanding is because when something gives color, then you get hana from it. So it's automatic that you're getting some hana, and that's if I understand correctly. That's why only by Yisuri hana are is something for Chazusah not Bitul. Okay, that's a special case. And the others learn that it's only not Bitul when it's a davar sheish lo matirin. Okay, that comes from in Hilchos Yom Tiv, but the Gemara says that a beit shishno Yom Tiv is aser. Okay, it's aser, and there's a din there in Aruch about what happens if you use this egg that was no Yom Tiv to color something, to whiten something. Somehow by putting the egg in, I guess it lightens the color of it. You guess the egg white and it lightens the color, and you use this thing to it made a difference to the item. It can't be Bitul. There's all kinds of trials. Why is it not Bitul? Okay, is it because all these sheets that I'm talking about Chazusah come up over there also? Is it because of Chazusah? Is it because of is it nice and tam? All kinds of questions about what it means over there in Aruch. So some learn that the only thing that cannot be Bitul is only Chazusah if it's davar sheish lo matirin. That's a fifth sheet. That only if it's davar sheish lo matirin. So the I told you this Gra says, and others who follow it say it's only if it's Isuri Hana. So I have a case of that. I told you this once beforehand, and that is black olives. Okay, and that is when you buy in the store black olives, those are not olives that turn black. Okay, black olives actually do turn black if they sit on the tree for long enough. At the end of their cycle, at the end of their growth, they go from green to darker and darker. Eventually, they turn black. But those olives, you never see those olives. Those olives are used for making oil because they have a lot of oil in them, and they don't taste good. The black olives, when you buy in the store a can of black olives, those are green olives. Those are plain, good old-fashioned green olives that are processed differently than the regular green olives. They're processed with lye, processed differently. But what makes them really black, that processing makes them dark. But what makes them black is because they put in ferrous gluconate at the end of the process, and that turns them black. Okay, so what happened? We found out is that a lot of olives come from Greece, and in Greece, they buy a lot of their ingredients from Europe, as you can imagine. So the ferrous gluconate is made from ferrous oxide and gluconic acid, and the gluconic acid was chametzlik. Okay, in actually the place that I was at, the gluconic acid was chametzlik. So the ferrous gluconate was chametz. Chametz is Isuri Hana. So that would mean this is something that was l'chazusah. It changes the color. It makes it go from like a darkish color to black to midnight black, and it changes the color. And it's a Isuri Hana that changes the color. It's pretty hard to find. It was hard for me to think of a case of that. Isuri Hana that is avida time. That changes the color. I'll just throw in way back when we talked about zev zagarim. We talked about maybe this case is considered zev zagarim. Because gluconic acid by itself would never make it black. It needs the two parts together. That's its own special shayla. We talked about that. Anyhow, okay. So we have 5 shittas here. 5 shittas here about what to do about whether Chazusah is Bitul or it's not Bitul.
So what's one sheet is the Gra is the Isuri Hana.
Only if it's Isuri Hana. The Gra also holds to this thing that if it would be davar sheish lo matirin, it also wouldn't be Bitul. He holds actually both. But if it's Isuri, it's only not Bitul when it's Isuri Hana. And others hold that it's only not Bitul if it's a davar sheish lo matirin. The logic of there is if it's davar sheish lo matirin, I forgot to say that if it's davar sheish lo matirin, then the putting the food in for Chazusah makes it be min b'minoi. We talked about such a shita last time. Different time that when you put it in on purpose, you want it to be part of these ingredients. That's an automatic qualification as min b'minoi, so it helps it make it be Bitul. So we have these 5 shitas, either like you said before, either vadei aser, vadei motor, safek, and therefore we're machmir for deraises, or these 2 like floating shitas that either it's only aser by Isuri Hana, or it's only aser if it's davar sheish lo matirin. Okay, and there's lots of names on all sides. I didn't tell you all the names, but Rav Shachta said, which is I think what most people do, is they follow the prichadosh, the machmir for deraises, and make it to rabbanans. The Chasam Sofer says, ein lozos psaka prichadosh. Okay, that's what the Chasam Sofer says, and that's I think mukubal that people follow the prichadosh that for deraises the machmir, for the rabbanans the mekel. The Chayadim is even more mekel. He follows the Gra. All kinds of people make, but I think most people follow like this. Again, it's only shayla for b'diavad. For lechatchilas, it's not a shayla. You're not allowed to put in something that's awesome. Okay, so let me just tell you some little other pratim before I finish about Chazusah. First is this din of Chazusah milsa. A number of poskim say it's only true if it was put in because you wanted to put this thing in to change the color. But if that happened by mistake, like you weren't putting it in for color, you're putting it in for some other reason and it happened to change the color, or it fell in by mistake, like it just fell in, then that's not a problem. Okay, so Chazusah milsa is only when it was put in. Like I told you, the ferrous gluconate was put in. The guy made the candy with the carmine. He put it in on purpose. That's why he put it in, because he wanted to make the color. That's when there's a shayla of
Who says this?
Chazusah says it, and the Pri says it. That it's only when it's done in because you wanted it to happen. Okay, not like a mistake kind of a thing.
I think this Svar Pshuta is not possible because you can see it. So
right, so you're saying is if the whole reason why it's not both is not but taruvas, if that was the logic.
I don't know if you say it like that or just like the Thomas that this is it's like
okay, fair. I hear your argument. Okay,
it's like what's the difference?
Okay.
He said Prichadr says it.
Prichadr says it, and the Pri brings it. Yeah, but as I'm talking to you, I'm saying to you, if they held that it's because it's the rice, it's not considered taruvas. Why should I care whether you planted or you didn't plant? It's not taruvas. Okay, that's right. I'm not know how to answer that question. Okay. Now, next is that the Prichadr says if you use carmine in a food, let's say we'll go with the Prichadr, can't be bottled. Can't be bottled. He says so that means is I can't eat this food. Fine, let's take it. We can't eat the food, but there's no tam from the carmine. It's bottled b'shishim. It's in a tiny amount that's bottled b'shishim. So the food we won't eat, but the kalim that we made that food on, we won't have to kasher. Because we only kasher things because they give tam. This thing has no tam to it. Because the tam is bottled b'shishim, there isn't nice tam. So we wouldn't have to kasher the kalim. Okay, so which comes up often enough that the treif thing was only treif because of Chazusah, and a lot of these other things. Okay, basically, any time that something is not bottled because it's except for avidal timer, anything that's not bottled because it needs more than shishim means it's not being nice and tam. If it's not being nice and tam, then we don't have to care about the kalim. We only care about the thing itself, but the kalim that are not affected by that thing. Okay, but there's a twist to that, and that is what happens when you get to a company that makes colors. Okay, they're not making grapefruit juice that has carmine in it to give it a color. They are making colors. Okay, so in those companies, the carmine could be a tremendous percentage of the formulation. This is the color. They're not making orange juice. They're making color. So their red color could have 30% carmine in it, right? If they're making a carmine-based color, it's going to have a lot of carmine in it. Okay, so at first glance, you would think that those kalim now need to be kashered because the kalim, the carmine is for sure zeis and tam. Okay. That's a very interesting shayla, whether that's true or that's not true. In Mitzvah Shem and Simon Kuf Gimel, we'll talk about it. There's a whole to do about that. You would imagine what I told you that you don't have to kasher kalim is only when it's an ingredient. So it's an ingredient that's bottled. But what happens when it is the thing? That's what it is. It's basically just a bowl of carmine. Let's say it's 30% of 20% carmine. You would think that you'd have to kasher kalim. In Mitzvah Shem, when we get to Simon Kuf Gimel, a very interesting shayla about why maybe it doesn't have to be kasher.